Everybody loves a good customer testimonial. After all, if I can find a happy customer who loves us, loves our product, and is willing to testify to how much they love us and how great we are and how much everyone else should buy us too, why would you not want to put that person in touch with every one of your prospective customers to get them excited about buying you too? And how many times have we all sort of gone down that road and found someone who maybe even kind of fits that bill and then arranged for that conversation between that person and the prospective customer? And then it turns out that that customer still has the exact same objections they had prior to that call. Whereas you thought, if I could just have that one conversation, it's that magic moment that's going to get him over the finish line. And it never quite seems to work out that way. It's really frustrating. Here is a completely different way to use customer testimonials altogether. And I found it in one or two companies, and it's really smart, which is rather than having that customer testimonial, that happy customer testify to you at all, to how much they love you or how great you are or how you delivered on all your promises, think about using them to solve a completely different problem altogether, which is for that prospective customer, particularly if they're an individual stakeholder trying to align their colleagues and herd the cats inside their own organization to get this deal to just move forward, to help his or her organization just make a decision that leads to the purchase of your solution. It's actually really hard. And it's very possible that that customer is probably inexperienced in going on that journey, hasn't done it ever before, hasn't done it a long time, and they could use help. They could use a coach. And we've talked in earlier videos about how you can play that role as a sales professional or a customer success professional in being that guide. But what if you were just played the connector role and connected that prospective customer to a other customer, other company, an executive who has managed to successfully navigate that landmine or that minefield inside their own organization and successfully managed to buy a solution like yours. In fact, managed to buy your solution. And so the whole idea is that this customer testimonial can be an opportunity for that person who has successfully managed to cross the finish line to share his or her lessons learned on how to make that actually happen inside their own organization. And the companies have done this really well. It's interesting. They'll start with sort of this customer over here, this prospective customer is either struggling or is running into obstacles or is just not sure whether or not this is going to fit, is not sure whether or not he or she can get their team on board. And so you put them in touch with someone who's managed to make all of that magic happen. And before that conversation happens, which, by the way, you don't need to be present at, you have effectively a coaching session with this existing customer. That is the testifier, I guess, if you want to put it that way. And the whole idea is that you coach them to not talk about you, to actually have a conversation that is essentially supplier agnostic, to not talk about you or your product or the value or how great you are or how easy it was to implement. All that stuff will likely come up in conversation anyway, but to focus the conversation instead on just the journey itself, their experience navigating their own complicated decision-making process inside their own organization. What lessons did they learn? What would they do differently? What was hard? How did they overcome those obstacles? Essentially position this person as a coach to that person and then establish or set up that conversation and get out of the way and let it happen. What you're solving for here is a very different thing, which is not, I love me, you love me. Can you help me make them love me too? That's not what you're solving for. Rather, this person is about to go on this journey that is really, really hard and they could use some help. They could use some guidance from someone who's experienced that same challenge and found a way to overcome it. Could you play that role of guide or coach to them? And it turns out that is a really powerful way to use an existing happy customer, I suppose, a successful buyer, in a way that provides more. What you're solving for here is confidence of this person, not in you, but which is usually how we think about testimonials, but rather we think about how do we solve for the confidence of that person in themselves and their ability to navigate their own organization. And by the way, when you do this, I think there's two really practical questions to make this happen. Number one is, if you had to do this all over again, what would you do? What would you do differently? That's a great prompting question for this person as they have a conversation with that person. And the second one is very similar, which is, if you had to provide some advice to someone else about to go on this journey, which, by the way, is this person over here, what advice would you give them to make their lives just a little bit easier, to save them the pain, the frustration that you experienced when you went on this journey? If you had to do it all over again, what would you do differently? Try this out next time a customer asks you, or a prospective customer asks you for a customer testimonial. This might, in fact, be the exact kind of conversation they're actually looking for.